Welcome back, Chaos Crew. I'm Jamie, your host, and we are getting ready for another episode of Proffee in Chaos. So grab your Proffee, get cozy, snuggle up, and let's have some caffeinated convos. Today, we are talking about something that I think everyone needs a little good reminder of, especially this time of year, and that's boundaries. So we're going to get into it. Boundaries. I think a lot of us don't know where to start when it comes to having boundaries. And this is something that comes up a lot on my client calls. And it's something that I have to practice too. I feel like I've gotten pretty good at it over the years, especially when it comes to people commenting on weight or my weight loss surgery. And I'll be honest, I'm so far post op now that it doesn't come up very often. But as we're already in the holidays, we might be seeing family that we haven't seen in a while. We might be seeing friends that we haven't seen in a while. And for some of you, especially if you're like brand new on this journey, even positive comments or ones that are meant to be positive when unsolicited can feel like I don't say icky because we usually know when people have good intentions, but it can definitely make you feel some type of way, especially when you haven't seen someone in a while and they're like, oh my God, I didn't even recognize you. Or, oh my God, you look like a whole new person. You look great. And it's obviously meant to be nice, but it does immediately make you think, well, did I look like shit before? Okay. Or no one's ever really said this to me to like my face, but I've gotten it online. Oh my God, you look so much better now. Thanks. So having boundaries with people and like their unsolicited comments, especially family, I find this a lot with my clients who struggle sometimes with the more maternal figures in their life, even if they mean well. It can be moms, grandmas, aunts. And I really think a lot of that comes from just internalized diet culture passed down from so many decades. And I could be wrong, but I feel like this is one of the first periods of time where we're starting to normalize. Maybe don't comment on someone's body or don't comment on someone's, honestly, anything that's too personal, like what they're eating. And I know, especially if you're listening to this and this is you going into your first holiday season, you might already be feeling really anxious about people making comments about what is or isn't on your plate. That's all you're going to eat, especially if you're someone who is not openly sharing that you had surgery or not openly sharing that you're on a GLP-1. And that's your right to share or not to share. I will tell you, and this isn't so much along the terms of like boundaries, but just in general. I remember being really anxious after I had my surgery that everyone was going to comment on what I was going to eat. Everyone was going to notice how little I was eating. Everyone was going to like know that I had surgery and out me because at the time I hadn't really shared beyond just like my family and stuff. And the reality is like almost no one noticed. And I was almost like mildly offended. I was like, wait a minute. My whole world has changed. I'm eating like a bird. What do you mean like you don't notice? And that was really eye-opening that a lot of the times you start to realize other people aren't always as focused on what you're doing as you think they are. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, Chaos Crew, you already know how much I talk about being a new mom and juggling not only that aspect of my life, but my post-op health and life after surgery. And I honestly can't even tell you how many times Hungryroot has saved me in this season of life. They are the most incredible grocery delivery service where I know that when I use their groceries, I'm getting really healthy, high protein, easy to use ingredients sent right to my door. And honestly, now that Oliver is eating real food now too, it's just, they've grown so much with me and my family. I started using them when I was just 1 month postpartum and has absolutely been a game changer. Whether I am using the ingredients they send me from scratch to create one of their amazing meals with one of their recipes, or I'm just grabbing one of their ready-made options, I always have something for dinner ready to go for me and my family. And for right now, they are offering Proffee and Chaos listeners 40% off your first order when you use the code CHAOS at checkout. So don't forget, you can head to the link in the show notes. You can grab your first grocery order, which like hello, 40% off of groceries. Amazing. Make sure you go and do that. Use the link, use the code so they know that I sent you. But if you know you're probably going to face unsolicited comments in some way, shape, or form, let's get into it. So In order to the thing about boundaries, and this is kind of that, like, tough love piece, emphasis on the love, is it does start with you. I'll have some of my clients tell me, and again, I'm not a therapist, I'm not, I can't touch any of the mental health stuff, but as someone who coaches people on their habits as a dietitian, food is social, food is emotional, food is cultural. So you run into different scenarios where you're with others as anticipated. So we talk about these things. But the thing that I've talked about time and time again with my clients is when they say they're not respecting my boundaries. One of the things I'll usually ask is, okay, well, have you made your boundaries really clear to them? And sometimes the answer is no. So the thing about boundaries is it really starts with us, not with other people. And even if you try and make that boundary clear, it's still on us if those boundaries aren't respected, and that's the hard part because we can't control other people, we can only control ourselves. Again, a lot of this starts with that mindset work of building up your self-confidence to be able to verbalize these boundaries, but sometimes I'll talk to my clients and they'll say things like, "Yeah, she always asks me about my weight and I never answer because it's annoying and I wish she would just respect my boundaries." Or I shrug it off or I change the subject. I'm like, "Okay, well, that's not clearly drawing a line in the sand of this my body, my weight loss surgery, my GLP-1 is off limits." So I think that is really challenging sometimes because you have to be the one to say, hey, and you can approach this with kindness, assuming someone's not meaning harm. You can say, hey, I appreciate you like having an interest, or I appreciate you, being concerned, but I really would rather not talk about my weight. It's not okay to comment on my body. This conversation is off limits. Or, I know one of the comments I would get a lot is, are you sure you can eat that? And I'd say, yes, trust me, I know what I can and can't eat. Thank you for your concern, but I got it. But really having to be firm sometimes with people is hard. Being able to say, hey, this is making me uncomfortable. It's not up for discussion anymore. And here's the hard part is, well, first and foremost, we have to kind of give people the benefit of the doubt because if this is the very first time you're drawing that line in the sand, giving someone these boundaries, it might take them a couple times to remember that or to know that you mean business around that. So you might have to be like, hey, remember we talked about this? This isn't up for debate. Hey, remember we talked about this? If you keep bringing it up, I'm going to have to leave. Something like that. Again, depending on the situation and like how meaningful that boundary is to you and like if it's something that is really bothering you, right? But that reminder. But after a few times, if they're not getting it, this is the hard part. It's where you have to follow through with that boundary of, okay, I'm removing myself from this now. I can't control you, but I can control me and my energy. And usually that's when people start to get it, unfortunately. It's kind of like if you think about like with a toddler, right? Toddlers like to push limits, push buttons, and push boundaries because not because they're being manipulative or bad, but when you think of a toddler, it's they're trying to they're learning cause and effect. And I'm certainly not an expert on toddlers, even though I have one who is getting into that phase. But when you tell a toddler no, or if you do it again, we're going to leave. If they do it again and you don't leave, like the restaurant or something, all that teaches them is that you don't mean business about your boundary. You have to, like as the parent, you have to follow through. And it's very similar when it comes to boundaries with other people. So if they can't stop making comments or they can't stop saying things, it's up to you to uphold that boundary. So that is really challenging. And then I've gotten questions even recently like, okay, well, what do I say when someone is like pushing food on me? And maybe it's not a firm, don't push food on me or I'm leaving, but maybe it's having to express to them that you're good and they don't need to worry about you. So I always like approaching things with what I call the compliment sandwich. Like say something like a compliment or something kind, insert firmness or boundary, close with something kind. So let's say like your great aunt, whoever is like, oh, I made your favorite. I made the brownies that you love. Like, won't you have some more? Like, whatever they're doing, you can say like, thanks, aunt, whoever. Like, I love these so much. Like, I'm so glad you thought of me. I'm actually really full right now, but maybe I'll take some home for later, or maybe you can offer some to somebody else, or, I'm really glad that you did think of me. Like, so start with something positive, be firm, close with something positive. Because if you're also caving to these things, it goes back to the people pleasing, right? It's like, well, I don't want to upset them because I know they don't mean harm. So how do I have a boundary with someone who I want to please? And I think that part is really hard. And that probably involves some like deeper inner work of, okay, like how do I get out of these people pleasing tendencies? And one of the things that I've had to learn the hard way over the years is every time you say yes to something that doesn't feel good to you, you're also saying no to something that would. So if it doesn't feel good for you to have the brownie in that moment because you're full or it's just an example, but if you say yes to your aunt, that's going to leave you feeling sucky. So you can't keep jeopardizing that, especially when you've put so much forward into this journey. Now, of course, we have the people who are straight up rude, the people who have their very strong opinions on weight loss surgery or GLP-1s. And that's when I've answered this before because this actually kind of came up in the live Q&A I did for our live recording back this fall. I am not even exaggerating a little bit when I say I have literally tried every single protein powder out there since I had my surgery 8 years ago. And for the first time, I am actually being super consistent with drinking my protein shake every single morning. And that's because First Form has been a game changer for me. It is the first protein powder that I actually enjoy drinking every day. I personally love their caramel latte level 1 flavor protein powder. It is incredible. It tastes so good. It is smooth, creamy, and only has the highest quality ingredients. It is not made with any fillers. It is just an epic product specifically for bariatric patients, and it's been a total game changer for me. And you guys know that this podcast is called Proffee and Chaos for a reason. I'm always grabbing my Proffee and running out the door. And First Form makes it possible for me to still live this chaotic life and hit my needs. So make sure you check out the links below, that you check out all of First Form's products. Again, level 1 is my favorite. Also in the show notes below, you can get my favorite Proffee recipe using First Form. But I'll reiterate it here again. Again, it might just be the Capricorn in me. I love when people are genuinely being assholes. I like to make them feel like they're the asshole they are. And that might sound bad, but it's true. So if someone is being snarky, someone is being passive aggressive, couple ways you can answer. Number one, and I actually took this from a reel I saw recently, and I don't remember the content creator's first name, or I would give her credit. It kind of like went viral. And she was saying if someone is being passive aggressive, if someone is saying something that is actually like underlined, like kind of rude, if you say, what do you mean by that? Or can you tell me more what you mean by that? It really, if they were genuinely like doing it to be passive aggressive, they're going to get all flustered being put on the spot. If they weren't and they actually meant something else by it, they're going to be able to easily explain that. But if not, you're going to watch them kind of like shaking their boots a little bit. So for example, if someone says something to you like, I would never be confident enough to wear that, or like, wow, I'm surprised that like you feel comfortable wearing that. I might say, can you tell me more what you mean by that? Because what they mean by that is, oh, it doesn't fit you well, or oh, you look big. And they're going to feel like an asshole when they do that. So it's totally okay to call people out in a kind way. So call them out on it. The other phrase, and this is what I've shared before, the one that I love is just looking them like dead ass, like in the eyes and saying, wow, I'm really shocked you felt comfortable saying that to me. Or, did you mean to say that out loud? Call people out on it. It's okay to do that. And it's taken me years to realize this. I think where I've gotten really firm with boundaries, like really, really firm, is having my son, because as someone who's a people pleaser, there are times when like I might feel uncomfortable and I would let that go. Not that that's good. But if I worry he's going to be uncomfortable, hell no. So like, for example, when he was a baby, like, well, he is a baby still, but he's about to be 18 months. But when he was like a little baby, I was so anxious about him getting sick, rightfully so. And I did not want people kissing him. Did not want people kissing him. And there was one situation, we were at like a family gathering and there was like some family friends there. And this one lady who basically I've known her my whole life. She was like my grandmother's best friend. Like she's much older. She's very sweet, very kind. She meant no harm. But as soon as I let her hold the baby, and I didn't say it quick enough, like don't kiss him. She started like kissing him all over and I was like horrified. But at that point she had already done it and I kind of like froze. And then I went home and like I actually like cried. Like I felt so bad. I was like, oh my God, me not speaking up potentially put him in a lot of danger of him getting a cold And when they're 2 months old, that's really scary. So now I'm really firm with boundaries. So, like, for example, it tends to be some of the older generations sometimes that don't always have boundaries with things, especially like when it comes to babies. And I get it. People just want to be nice. People see a cute baby in the grocery store and they just want to go up and be like, oh my God, hi, which is fine. We love the hellos. Oliver's super friendly. We love the attention, but wave at him or say hello. Don't touch my baby. And there was one day, I shit you not, I went to 2 grocery stores. I went to Costco and then I went to Trader Joe's because they're right near each other where I live. Both stores I had to tell, both seemed like from similar generations. One was an older woman, one was an older man. Don't touch my baby. And like this older man, especially in Trader Joe's, came up to me and he was like, about to, like, I don't know, pat Oliver on the I was like, don't touch him. And he kind of looked at me. I was like, you can say hello, but do not touch him. And that's a boundary I don't feel bad about holding. Like, don't touch my baby. And it took me really until having Oliver to be firm with boundaries. So, like, no, don't comment on my body. No, don't tell me what to eat. No, don't tell me how awful you think GLP-1s are and how you think they're terrible for society. Because guess what? I'm going to come back at you and say, I actually think differently and I'm on one. So, because it's also like people in their, if we're circling this back to like the main topic of holiday boundaries, people don't always think sometimes before they speak, but also I think it comes down sometimes to a lack of consideration. And again, you have to be the one to feel comfortable enough to say, like, hey, you're not being considerate. Like, think about how I might feel. But again, it comes back to the people pleasing, which isn't easy to do. And it really took me to having my son I've gotten much more unapologetic with one of the biggest things I talk to my clients about is the fact that surgery, as much as it is physical, is also super mental and emotional. We can have our stomachs removed, bypassed, whatever, but we cannot bypass or remove the parts of our head that need work. And this is why I am constantly referring people to find a bariatric therapist. This is an incredible, incredible platform created by my friend and colleague, Ashlyn Douglas Barnes. She is a licensed bariatric therapist. She had weight loss surgery herself. And it is so incredible what she has put together. It is a free directory. It costs you literally nothing. And you can find licensed bariatric specific therapists licensed in your state. So make sure you check it out. As a dietitian, I help you with the food, but we always need to be incorporating the interdisciplinary team so that you get the well-rounded support you need. Check it out below and let us know your thoughts. The things I say over the years, but so much more so since I've had him. The other thing that I want to talk about that I think is just as, if not more important than having boundaries with other people is having boundaries with yourself. So this isn't the same. So yes, when it comes to boundaries with other people, it starts with you. That's for sure. But then on the flip side, I talk to my clients about this all the time. Like, what are your boundaries with yourself? And if you don't even know how to start with that, I would really encourage you to take pen to paper and start to write it out. So what I mean by this is, and everyone's boundaries are going to be different, but like certain things that you do are going to leave you feeling bad about yourself at your own hand. So for example, if it's after dinner and I want something sweet, my go-to is always like cookies or ice cream. But let's say I have some cookies. Honestly, me having like 2 or 3 or even like 4 Oreos doesn't really cross a boundary with me. I'm like, that feels good. Like, I wanted something sweet. This is delicious. Move on. And it took me a long time to get there. And that's a whole other conversation. But if I keep going and I'm already full and I'm starting to feel like yucky physically, and then I'm starting to beat myself up, and then I'm starting to like spiral, and before I know it, I've eaten half the sleeve, that right there crossed the boundary with myself. That did not feel good. So at what points do you make your own self uncomfortable? And is that from self-sabotage? Like, what is that? So like sometimes defining like what your boundaries are. So for example, if your boundary with yourself is, I need to make it to the gym at least 3 days this week, because if I go any less, I'm going to feel terrible about myself. I'm not going to feel good mentally, physically, like I'm not getting my money's worth of my membership, like whatever it is. If that's the case, it's on you to figure out what that boundary of, okay, I need to get there at least 3 times. How do I uphold that boundary and stick to that boundary? Sometimes that means saying no to certain activities or saying no to other things to make room for it. And these are all just like very generic, but maybe relatable, like weight loss examples, but this is true for other things also. And again, if you're constantly saying yes to other people, you can't always say yes to yourself. So, like, figuring out what your own boundaries are. Do you have to have a boundary with yourself around bedtime? I'm attacking myself here because I am like, for me, like, one of the hardest things for me is to unwind and go to bed. And a big part of that is I end up working or doing things on the computer late at night after Oliver goes to bed because my time is so limited. But by the time, for example, on Tuesday nights when I'm done with my bariatric breakthrough calls, I log off at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I'm wired, I'm wide awake. But before I know it, instead of properly unwinding, I'm doom scrolling, doing that bedtime procrastination, and I'll blink and it's midnight. And that crosses my own boundary. So I personally am working on, okay, like, how do I figure out what my boundaries are? And I might have shared this before, I don't remember, but like, I actually at this point have two different phones. I have my work phone, I have my like personal phone. This phone has all social media on it. My personal phone does not. I have like the apps I use to message my clients. I have my work email on here. I have anything sleeve dietitian related on this phone. And my boundary is when I'm done working, when I'm done filming, when I'm done creating materials, when I'm done creating content, when I'm done answering my clients and doing their check ins, this phone stays in this room and gets shut off because otherwise that's had to be a boundary with myself. I will waste so much time just mindlessly scrolling. So that's like a boundary I have to have with me. So I would really encourage you to sit down and figure out like what boundaries do you have to have with you. One of the things I can say I am most proud of since starting my journey is creating the support for others that I never had. I remember thinking, oh my God, I am a dietitian and I am struggling on this journey with not just what to do, but how to do it to be successful and actually live my life, which is why I created my Tribe membership back in 2020. It is the most incredible resource that I offer and the best starting point if you're looking for more support or some of my more nutrition services. It's an acronym and it stands for the Real Insights of Bariatric Eating, and it has so much support in there, not just from myself, but from other credentialed experts. We have therapists, we have a doctor of physical therapy, we have a nurse. We have so many people in there to support you along the way. So if you are interested in more nutrition support and more support in hitting your goals on your journey, that is a great place to start. You can check out the link below and use the code CHAOSCREW20 for 20% off your first month. And there's no minimum commitment. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. But I will say you probably won't want to because we do some epic things in there. Not gonna lie, I could totally use some extra boundaries around my coffee because I talk to my clients about this all the time. It's like, okay, well, we got to cut off the coffee drinking by a certain point in the day to fit in your food and water. And I try really hard to have my breakfast, but then I'll go back to drinking coffee a good portion of the time. Like, hello. I was up really late last night because me and my best friend went to go see Wicked 2. Amazing. And I didn't get to bed till late. But here I am. It's actually a Sunday here, and I normally don't work on the weekends, but I need to get these episodes filmed, which is fine, but I'm dragging and here it is. It's almost noon and I'm still sipping my coffee. So like for me, I know I need to work on these things. So at the very least, I would start figuring out how you can build some more awareness around at least what your boundaries are. So again, starting with that awareness is just like everything. I feel like I'm starting to talk in circles now. I don't know if this is like actually making sense. But I might encourage you to sit down and like again put pen to paper, see what boundaries you need to have with other people, how you can follow through with them, and what boundaries you need with yourself. We talk about this a lot in my bariatric breakthrough program, which I already mentioned, which by the way, I'll put links in the show notes, but I am welcoming in new clients for the new year into the bariatric breakthrough program. That is my honestly like best program ever. It is specifically designed for women at least 2 years after weight loss surgery, struggling with 20 to 30 plus pounds of regain. Pretty much every single person in that group feels like they have gone back to old habits, struggling with snacking, struggling with self-sabotaging behaviors. And the reason the program is so epic and amazing is because we don't just focus on the food, we focus on all of these like little mindset pieces along the way, which is crucial and so important. So if you'd like more details on that, I have some links below. Would love to welcome you in if you need more of that support. But yeah, and these are just like the bigger conversations I think we don't always have after weight loss surgery. It's like, just stick to your post-op diet. And it's like, okay, well, how am I supposed to do that when every person and their mother is either pushing food on me or criticizing what I eat? So again, that starts with building up your own self-esteem and your own self-worth. Well, Chaos Crew, I think that's all I have in me for now on this conversation. Thank you for tuning in this week and listening. Make sure you check out the show notes below. We have our incredible sponsors. Make sure you check them out. We have, like I said, links to my bariatric breakthrough program, links to my other services. And if you need me, you can always reach out at support@thesleepdietitian.com. Make sure you follow along on social media, join our free Facebook group, and I'll see you next week.